Man, oh man, everybody, what is going on? If you don't know, now you do know. You're officially tuned in to a very special edition of the HFWB Podcast Series. This is your host, Clifton Pope, and with me today, I have a returning guest who we pretty much formed like such a special bond in short times as far as us interacting with each other and just basically just sharing the love and sharing the vibes, which is what the HFWB podcast series is all about. It's just the community aspect, the community aspect. And speaking of communities, we're going to be diving into a very special community because I did say this is a special edition. We're going to be diving into the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu community. We're going to be diving into the brutally beautiful sport, the gentle art, so to speak, or like the person who I'm about to bring back onto the podcast once mentioned the last time, if you listened to the podcast, it's basically involuntary yoga where people are folding each other together and stuff like that. In other words, it's basically human chess. If you don't know who I'm talking about, who I'm about to bring back onto the HFWB podcast series, please welcome my friend, the MMA fighter specialist, Kim Avalos. Welcome back to the HFWB podcast series.
Hey, thanks for having me back. So I have to give a little correction. I am Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specialist. That is so MMA.
No, that's all good. That's all good. Let me rephrase that, y'all, for those who are listening. The Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specialist, my friend Kim Possible. And believe me, she's making it possible every time she steps into the ring, every time. With that being said, I got to start off this episode. With basically an exclusive. We were literally just talking about this before we went on and stuff. And I literally just saw this today. Like, my friend has a nice special announcement that a lot of people may not know about. Because she's constantly getting involved in many matches just to perfect her craft as she should. It's always all about finding room for improvement and stuff. But I heard you have a nice little super fight coming up, Kim. What is all that about?
I do. So they reached out to me yesterday from Combat Sports Coverage and asked if I wanted a title match for the 115-pound championship at the purple belt level. So, of course, I said yes. And this is going to be my second shot at this title. The first time I went up against a very, very skilled, seasoned purple belt, Jocelyn. She's amazing. I love her. I support her and all that she does. Like, she's awesome. She ended up beating me in the Grand Prix back in May. And that was a fun match. So she ended up losing her title, I want to say a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. And the girl that beat her in overtime. She got her in a takedown, and that takedown won her the match. So let me tell you, with all my wrestling and all of my stand-up training, as far as working on getting people to the ground instead of just butt scooting and, notice anybody that butt scoots, that's the name of the game. It's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's not wrestling. It's not judo. But let me tell you, I do love a little bit of judo and a little bit of wrestling. A lot, actually. I incorporate that into my jiu-jitsu, which is what I think makes it so special. So I'm excited for this one.
I know. It just goes to show you, like, as far as, like, all the hard work you put in. It's like we were talking about this earlier. Like, you lost to this person, and then at the same time, this person lost to the person that you're about to face, and now it's like a full circle type of thing. You could possibly beat the person that beat basically yourself, and it's like, it's crazy. It's crazy how the universe works to where it's like, hey, okay, you fell short one time, but stay focused, stay the course, and you never know when that opportunity will come knocking on your door. You don't want to let it slip away, and it's like, it works out perfectly without a doubt. And it's like,
oh, for sure. It's God's perfect timing. I just been trusting in his plan, and everything's been lining up for me ever since I did that. But it all took my submission, like not just physically, which I did have to physically submit. And that's a whole, that's a whole thing. But yeah, so this year I really found not that I ever lost my faith. I just really found my positioning where I stand in my faith. submitted my will for my life over to the Holy Spirit. I'm a Christ follower, and once I did, I've just been on a winning streak, and I give all glory to God, because he is where my strength comes from. And everything's been amazing. Like, I got new sponsors, and everything has just been going according to his perfect will and plan for my life. So I'm pretty stoked about it. And yeah, I look forward to going up against, I want to say she's an MMA fighter. I think she's an amateur MMA fighter, and then she does super fights on the side for jiu-jitsu. The girl won the championship. So I look forward to going against her. She looks to have good pressure. MMA fighters are always aggressive. So this, I think, is going to be a really good matchup, and I look forward to it.
What is you feel like will be like the best approach for you regarding this super fight, that to where you can come up on top? Is there like a certain approach you're going to take towards this fight, or is it going to be like the same mentality as far as how you approach every single fight, so to speak? Like, what would you feel like would be your overall game plan going into this super fight?
That's funny, because every time I get asked that question lately, the answer is the same. So I pray before every match.
As you should. Yeah, without a doubt.
Worship. That is how I get in my groove. That's how I get in my zone. And I just like tune into the Holy Spirit, give it all to him. I claim the strength of David when he defeated Goliath. I claim the bravery of Joshua before he went into battle. I claim everything that God has given to me that makes me who I am today. And I to move my body in any which way that he feels is appropriate. So if they shoot in for a takedown, I'm prepared for that. If they sit on their butt and make me work to pass, I'm prepared for that. My personal preference is to have them stand up with me, because I was a Gracie Baja gi specialist, right? I'm going to say specialist. I wasn't always that.
You really are a specialist, though. You really are.
Now I think I can say that, but for about 6 or 7 years, I was a guard puller. I didn't do no-gi. I just focused on the guard, and I pulled guard, and not always very well. Like, I wasn't even the best guard puller. And then, I started going to Texas Style, and that's like the best wrestling club in South Texas. Like, nobody can change my mind. Coach Jaime is just the best at what he does, and we are just so lucky and blessed to have him on our team leading us. Right. Area. And ever since I started working with Coach Jaime about a year ago, and we even have a college wrestler, her name is Leandra. She's awesome. We have her coaching the kids and sometimes leading the class as well. Not leading, but like, getting us started with the warm-ups and helping coach us. And then Coach Jaime, right? Head wrestling coach, just setting the bar for not only training, but drilling and practice. Mm-hmm. Getting us going and making us uncomfortable and getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Has moved my game so much. Like, I'm not the same grappler that I was a year ago. I can tell you that right now. And I just can't wait to showcase my jiu-jitsu. I'm excited.
It's kind of like the whole process that you were going through. It's like throughout the training, it's like you were being forced to like really think things through and like make your next move like the best move type of thing. And that's the one thing that I've gotten out of like just watching like mixed martial arts, any kind of like style of fighting, especially Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It's more just like it's literally like human chess. It's like you're playing chess with each other, and it's like you're trying to outmaneuver each other mentally within the mind and at the same time physically within the body. Hence, you're really playing around with the mind-body connection, so to speak, with Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It's like, do you feel like that plays like a big part as far as just in Brazilian jiu-jitsu in general, as far as like the mind-body connection? How would you best describe that to those who are very, very unfamiliar with it, so to speak?
So that's exactly what it's like. It is exactly like human chess. Or earlier we were talking about involuntary yoga, right? Folding clothes.
Yes, exactly.
My new favorite is human origami. So that's my dog. My dog is
pretty all good.
So human origami is basically folding people, right? And just making human pretzels. But in order to do that, nobody's going to let you do that. So you really do have to set up, just like, exactly like you said, you have to set it up to where people are going to react the way you know, which comes with experience. You're not going to get this right away. And that's something that took me a long time to figure out. Like, I'm a purple belt now. I've been a purple belt for about a year. It took me a long time, even just recently, little things started clicking, right? Just these tiny details that mean the most, because I know how to do an armbar. I know how to defend an armbar. You learn that at the white belt level. But to learn those little tweaks and details that open a door to another transition, that opens another door to another transition. It's like an infinite number of possibilities in jiu-jitsu, depending on what you do. It's like, you ever play those games where, like, or read those books where it's like you make a choice and it's like, okay, if you make this choice, turn to page 37, or like it's just an outcome depending on the choice that you make. So with that said, it's really made me think about the consequences of my actions, not just in jiu-jitsu, but in wrestling and just in life in general. It really does discipline you if you hope to be good at it, because you can just do this as a hobby and not care if you're good at it or not. You could be doing it because, like, okay, like your mom pays for it and like wants to put you in an extracurricular activity, or you just want to get in shape, right? And so you don't really know about of being the best. And those people, I would say, are more relaxed, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, if you're a competitor and you do want to be the best at this, and you do want to be the best version of yourself, like I do, it's not necessarily being the best at the craft, because that changes every day. But if you want to be the absolute best version of yourself, you're going to start applying these, things that you're learning to everyday life, not just jiu-jitsu or wrestling or judo or whatever it is you do, MMA, kickboxing. You're going to think about, okay, if I do this, he or she is going to have to defend, and they're going to either expose this, or they're going to let me do this, and then, I'm exposing this. So it's not you being in control. You could be in a very controlling position and then go for an attack, and then you're in a vulnerable position. So it is very much like chess, back and forth. You've got to be very meticulous with your actions and very cautious, but also not afraid to attack, knowing sometimes you just got to put yourself out there. And that's probably the biggest lesson that I learned this year, is putting myself out there, being aware of the risks, but going for it anyways. And I absolutely love that lesson. That's probably my favorite lesson in jiu-jitsu.
No, that's a great segue into actually like my next question. Say for someone who, kind of like as you were alluding to, looking to take up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a maybe starting off as a hobby and maybe working their way into maybe loving it to where they want to compete in it, so to speak. Describe like the step-by-step process as far as, okay, this is how it goes and this is how it can be, as far as if you take it to certain levels and stuff like that. I mean, I know you start off like at a white belt level, and like how would they be able to like work their way up for someone who's brand new to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and kind of want to learn the ins and outs, or at least the basics, so to speak?
So if I could go back and talk to myself when I first started,
right?
Hands down, I would tell myself, do wrestling, combine it with wrestling. If you can, do wrestling. If you're a wrestler looking to do jiu-jitsu, you're already ahead of the game. If you are a beginner and you haven't done anything at all, just show up. Literally just show up. Don't wait until you're in shape. Don't wait until your cardio gets better. Don't wait until you lose weight. Don't wait for any of that. Just show up. I can't tell you how many friends that I have because of jiu-jitsu that have been consistent and actually inspire me, because they show up more consistently than I do, because I'm like, okay, there's some days where I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a rest day. I'm going to go hit the sauna. I'm just going to go lift weights. I'll like take a rest day here and there when I'm not in a camp. And this girl, like, I'm just going to tell you, my friend Angela, she's amazing. Like, she's been consistent. She actually got student of the month at the gym a couple months ago because she was so consistent.
Oh, wow.
I don't mean one class a day. I mean, she was doing 2 to 3 classes Monday through Friday. She was putting in the work, and her, along with so many other people, have seen changes mentally, physically. She did her first jiu-jitsu competition, and that she is a shining example of just showing up. And I mean, she's lost weight. She seems so much like, every time I see her, she's just got this like light about her, right? Like, she's in a good mood. And we're those crazy girls that, like, we don't want to show up. Like, she just started doing wrestling too, which I'm super proud. Her husband just got her a pair of wrestling shoes. I think it was either for their anniversary or for her birthday, but he got her a pair of wrestling shoes. So now she and I will do wrestling together. And there was one day where I personally did not want to show up. And she messages the group. She's like, hey, Kim, you going to be in wrestling today? And I'm like, all right, I got to go. I can't leave her hanging. I got to show up for her. And so I but really for myself too, right? And so I show up, and she's not really feeling it. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, these are the days that we have to just push through. And I was looking for an excuse. I was looking for an out. I was like, do you want to just call it a day? Like, you already did kickboxing. I'll just go lift weights. And I just did a set, right? I was doing deadlifts and squats. So like, I can just go hit the sauna and get a good sweat. And that's it. And she's like, I think we'll feel better if we do wrestling. She blew my mind. And let me tell you, she was absolutely right. I took a before.
She talked you into it there, I see.
Into it. I'm like, look at me being trying to skip out on wrestling. And she's like,
she held you accountable there, Kim. That's a key right there. Accountability.
And that's what I love about my team, is we hold each other accountable. We lift each other up. We build each other. And I mean, it's just like, I have a picture that we took after that day of class, and we had the biggest smiles, and our hair was a mess. Like, I don't look like this after practice. I look like a mess. I'm like sweaty and my hair's everywhere. And we're taking a selfie, and she's like, I love that picture. Look at how big our smiles are. She's like, this is exactly why we needed to be here. And I'm like, dude, look at me learning from a white belt. Look at me being held accountable and being pushed by a white belt who I call and I love martial arts. Like, this is just reason number 3,562 why I love martial arts.
It just comes down to commitment and consistency based on everything you just described. I mean, like you just said, Kim, there's a white belt who she gets it. She gets the fact that you have to show up and you're already halfway won the battle. And then she's already developing that habit of wanting to improve and find room for improvement. When you're committed and you're consistent, you could do not only just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you could do anything in life, and you're already marked as dangerous and as a threat within itself. And and it's a good threat at that, because it's like, how can you hate somebody who's just as committed to the craft as you are? I mean, it's like one of those things to where it's like you feed off of each other and you make each other better and stuff like that. And honestly, I feel like that's going to make you even a better fighter down the road, not only for your super fight, but for any big fight that you have coming down the road. And it's like everyone is starting to recognize that journey as well, as we were talking about this earlier, as far as just, God continuing to open up many more doors for you, many more blessings. Now you're over here having sponsorships now based on your overall passion. I mean, for those who are basically listening to the audio version of the HFWB Podcast Series and not watching it on YouTube, Kim is right now rocking a Rocks Vitamin t-shirt. And let me tell you, when I see her posting about it, I literally see a post about her representing Rocks Vitamins like every other day on my timeline, it seems like. I'm not making this up. Describe how much that means to you as far as just having a brand like Rocks Vitamins, just supporting your overall passion just for playing human chess, literally. Did you ever imagine that?
No, I correct me if I'm wrong, Albert, Drigo, you guys correct me, but if I'm not mistaken, other than the OG, my best friend Leslie, which I don't even think she got she's a bodybuilder. That girl is a jack of all trades. She does everything. So I think her sponsorship was for bodybuilding, but she also did jujitsu and a bunch of other things. And now she does pro paintball. But I want to say I am the first athlete that got sponsored purely for jujitsu.
Making history. I love it.
Like, I'm not a bodybuilder. I don't do, physique or anything like that, which, gosh, those women are beautiful and very, very talented that do it. It takes some, you got to dig deep for that. And I'm not willing to dig that deep. I love food. So I will lift weights and I will get punched in the face and choked and do it to my friends, but I don't think I could ever do what it takes to be a bodybuilder. So it's so cool that Albert at Rock's Discount Vitamins and More, he came by. They actually sponsor Texas Style Training Center, which is the gym that I train out of. Albert came by and he would do a few kickboxing classes with us. He'd come by and he'd set up his Rock's Discount Vitamins table. Peter Caballero is already sponsored by them. Marina is already sponsored by them. And I was like, you know what? That's going to be me next. I know I'm not an MMA fighter. I know that they got sponsored because of their MMA. Who doesn't love watching MMA fights? I do. Like, everybody.
Yeah, MMA fights definitely draw the crowd for sure, especially those big time title fights, without a doubt.
Yeah, they draw the crowd. They bring people in. And so to be a strictly jujitsu competitor and be sponsored by Rocks, it's a blessing. Like, I have been praying for this. It's a blessing. So it's just super cool that not only did they notice me and Albert would see me training and I see Albert, I'm like, all right, I can't slack, right? Like, I'm not taking a break of 30 seconds. I gotta show him that what I'm here to do is serious. Like, I'm not playing around. And to be completely honest, that's how I am when I do train. Like, I don't skip rounds. I don't sit out. That's never been me. So, I do push myself. I was doing for a while. I did injure my pinky like a couple months back. So I had to take a little bit of break from kickboxing, the gloves and stuff. But at that point in time when I think I got sponsored back in June or July. I was consistently doing kickboxing. I would do wrestling. I was lifting weights and I was doing jujitsu. So I was doing a little bit of everything. And he told me I got the sponsorship. I'm like, are you serious? Like, this is awesome. And so ever since then, I've just been trying to show that I am marketable, even as jujitsu. Jujitsu does not yet, but we talked about this last time on the podcast. They don't draw in as much crowd right now as MMA does yet. However, they are heading that way. So this match that I'm actually doing, this championship match it's January the 27th on Combat Sports Coverage. That is actually going to be combining MMA and jiu-jitsu together. So they're going to be doing the first half of the day, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. They're even going to be having 3v3 team. Did I say that right? 3 versus 3 team duels. Yeah.
3-on-3. Yep.
Yeah. So they're going to be having those team matches as well as the championship super fight for jiu-jitsu, which my academy might be participating as well. I'm waiting on one girl. We got one of our wrestlers already agreed to do it. And then myself, as well as one other purple belt that might do it. And so I might be doing a 3v3 as well as my championship match. I told them, I was like, I'm up for anything. So there's that. And then the second portion of the day, we got, is it Manny? Or we got a couple of our amateur MMA fighters on the card as well. So they're going to be there. Our coaches are going to be there the whole day coaching for jiu-jitsu, MMA. We're going to be representing Texas Style Fight Club, Rocks Discount Vitamins and More. We're going to be representing just basically all of our sponsors that they kind of take a chance on us, right? So they put the belief not just in us, but what we can do, not just marketing, but also so that we go out there and we represent our gym, we represent each other, we represent our sponsors. And, I've got Six Pack Performance and Rehab, Wally, he's one of my sponsors. I've got Rhino over at CC Sticker Store in Annabelle, and Premier Vapes, he owns both of them. And I've got Steve over at the training room, helps me whenever I have an injury. Like, I've got so many sponsors right now that I'm so blessed to have them. And, Rock's Discount Vitamins and More was the one that I've been working at for years. And to me, it's so special because they share my faith, right? They are a God-fearing company that basically has the same moral values as I do. So I know when I'm representing Rocks, all glory and praise goes to the Lord, right? Like, that's just, I get to wear that. And I've just waited for this day for a long time. So I do my best to advertise with dignity and, be humble about it, but also give credit where credit is due. We just had a photo shoot, and they had me and Leslie and a couple other girls and a couple of the guys do the Black Friday marketing. So we did a photo shoot, and I got, you get like a free hoodie, you get your beanie, get your t-shirt, you get all that stuff, and then you market it, and it's so much fun. Like, I remember being on the other side of it, like watching my best friend, like, oh, she's so beautiful, she's so strong, she's so accomplished, and now I'm side by side right next to her, being representing the same company, doing the same things. And it's just like, you work hard, and like you said, there's nothing you can't do. You put your mind to it. And in my case, God is my strength, and there's nothing without him that I can't do.
If you haven't learned anything from listening to this episode of the HFWB Podcast Series, hey, you believe in God, you can do anything, right? Because in the end, it starts with God and it ends with God. It's something I like to tell people all the time. And then everything else that happens as well is pretty much in between. And it's just the journey within itself, as far as where you are currently and where you plan on going down the road, it's unbelievable, to be honest, Kim. And it's like, it wouldn't surprise me. And it's funny because I told Marina the same thing, because I really believe this about both of y'all, because y'all are just beasts within it yourselves. I feel like within the next year or two, you're probably going to be signed to one of these big time MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu companies it's just going to be big time. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if I even see you in the UFC in the next couple of years. I'm just going to throw it out there. Like, your passion and your drive is just, it's literally has you on target for doing that. And it's like, speaking of the UFC and stuff like that, I'm just going to throw this out there. Who would be your favorite male or female UFC fighter, and who would be the ideal person as far as professional MMA fighter that you would love to train with, or just even have a workout with?
Oh, that
comes to mind?
I'm going to get in trouble for this. Okay.
Oh, good. So, nothing is off limits on the HFWB Podcast Series.
So George St. Pierre is my all-time favorite, right? I love him. He is not. I mean, of course, who doesn't love the accent, right? But all that aside, his work ethic, like his training, he is, as a female, it doesn't matter to me, male or female. I look at your work ethic. I look at the foods that you're eating, because I've never believed that. I hear people say like, oh, champions can eat whatever they want when they're not in camp. No. George St. Pierre, not at all. His thing, he and I actually shared the same health issue of ulcerative colitis, and I overcame that. He overcame that. He was actually my inspiration to overcome it by changing my diet and my lifestyle. So I follow his workouts. I follow his training regimen. He's it's not all aggression. He does a lot of like gymnastics. He does like a lot of stretching. He does a lot of body weight on top of weightlifting. He's just very well-rounded, and nutritionally speaking, he's never been one to like indulge in the processed, sugary foods. If he's not anymore, he definitely was animal based, and that's how he cured his colitis. That's how I cured my colitis. So just living the animal based lifestyle and seeing his training and his mindset, like that champion mentality, it's not just a 6 to 8 week mentality. It is a literal lifestyle. And so for that, I would absolutely love to train with George St. Pierre and like just soak up some of that like champ goat aura, right?
No, George St. Pierre, in my opinion, if I had to list the 10 greatest mixed martial artist fighters I think I've ever seen compete inside the octagon, George St. Pierre would be definitely in my personal top 10, because the guy literally put mixed martial arts, just the overall combat sport, out there for the public. He's like one of the OGs without a doubt. He's in there with like, when you think of like the origins of it, when it became popular, you think of George St. Pierre, you think of, I don't know, Chuck Liddell, you think of like, Rashad Evans, Quentin Rampage Jackson, Tito Ortiz. You think of that OG era, and George St. Pierre is right there in that mix without a doubt. So I can see that without a doubt, for sure.
Yeah. Not only that, now that he's like retired from UFC and fighting, guess what he's doing? He is competing in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Yes. Like that. Come on. Can you just imagine showing up to like ADCC or Worlds and it's like, oh look, there's George St. Pierre, and he just like smashed that dude over there, and it's I would love that. So and that is my ultimate goal. So like UFC, I hope, if that's Marina's dream, I hope that that's where God takes her, because she definitely works hard, right, for her craft. And so for me, the equivalent of being signed by the UFC would be like, all right, cool. I'm going to go do ADCC and I win ADCC. And then I go and I win Abu Dhabi, or I go and I win Worlds. Like that's
bigger
the path
picture. You're on global. Okay.
Yeah, that's the path that I would love. Don't get me wrong. I want to do at least one MMA fight in my life just to do it. Like that's not my passion. It's not something that I obviously focus on the way I do with jiu-jitsu, but let me tell you, that wouldn't stop me from being good at it. I can promise you that. When I do kickboxing and whenever I do MMA sparring, it's fun. Like I get to unload, and I go against our amateur team. Our amateur fighters, don't let that fool you. These guys and girls, like these guys are tough. And so when I go against the amateurs, obviously, like I'm 5'2", just to put that into perspective. And when I go against, let's say my teammate Javon, right? He's a tall dude. He's very tall compared to me. So his arm length, like his arm reach is way longer than mine. So what do you think I'm going to do when I'm sparring against Javon? I'm going to shoot in and I'm going to take him down. Sorry, Javon. But that's my favorite thing to do. And so whenever I'm sparring with him, like I'll set up a little combination, I'll set up a little opening, and then I take him down and I'm like, all right, cool, I'm safe, I know what to do here. And so I just go for it. And so it actually is really cool for me to have the MMA fighters who do have MMA as a passion, who do want that path for themselves, to choose me in training and be like, hey Kim, let's go around. Or like in jiu-jitsu, like, hey Kim, let's go. And to me, that's like, hell yeah, like that's awesome.
Yes. This is like, what I do, right?
Yeah, like this is not my passion, but let me tell you, I'll say it again, that would not stop me from being good at it. So it's like you said, like we talked about before, consistency and just showing up and putting in the work. That's all it takes. You can be born with the best talent in the world, but if you don't have the discipline to put that talent to work and test it every day, someone's going to outwork you. I was not born with talent. Let me tell you, I was clumsy. I couldn't run right as a little girl. Like I was bow-legged. Like I had these issues growing up. I was not the most athletically inclined. I worked so hard to get where I'm at today. And my hard work has paid off, and it's continuing to pay off, and it will continue to pay off as long as you show up every day and put in the work. And when those days when, your mentality tells you like, oh, it's gloomy outside today, let's just hang out, let's just sit on the couch, let's just watch a movie, let's just hit the sauna and not do wrestling. Those are the days that you need to push yourself the most and lift the weights and eat the steak and, eat the eggs and forget about the pies. Like I had no interest for, Thanksgiving break. I had no interest in eating sweets or anything like that. Like it's a lifestyle. So
I was just that actually perfectly leads into my next question. In your overall eyes, Kim, what defines like the overall athlete, so to speak? Like when we hear the term athlete, it can be broken down in many, many different ways, but what do you think the three core things to that fuels the athlete the best in your eyes?
Sorry, it cut out towards the end a little bit there. So the question was,
I was just saying
for what now?
No, like what would you feel like, what are the three things that you feel like defines a true athlete to the core in your eyes?
A true athlete, I think, definitely has to have discipline is the first one, because discipline beats motivation every single time. You're not going to be motivated every single day. You're not going to want to put in the work every single day. You might want to do it consistently for a couple of days, maybe even a couple of weeks. But towards the end of a camp, I can tell you discipline has to be present when motivation is not. So that's the first one. The second one would obviously be consistency, because you have to be consistent with your discipline. You have to be consistent with your diet. You have to be consistent with your training, with your mentality. You have to be consistent with breaking the chain of letting those intrusive thoughts win. So, discipline, consistency. And then the third one, I would say, I'm just going to preach this every single day. Diet is so important. So diet has to be one of your top three priorities if you're an athlete. I don't care if you're 21 years old and your metabolism is super fast and you can eat French fries and still have a six-pack. You should not be having an amateur diet if you want to be at the professional level. And that came that came with
that's the truth right there.
that the truth hurts, and I'm gonna piss off a lot of people by saying that. And they're pride. I've said this to so many people. Pride will be your downfall, because your metabolism is not going to be fast your whole life. So if you don't get yourself in check when you're young and keep consistent with your, not just your training and your sleeping habits, but also your eating habits, it's going to catch up to you in the worst way. And I've seen the best athletes just completely slow down due to the diet or the cheat days. No, don't cheat yourself, because that's all you're cheating is yourself.
I love that. I feel like the first two things you mentioned, as far as discipline and consistency, go hand in hand with the most important thing, the diet. And it's funny you say that, because it's like, I tell all my clients, whoever I train all the time, these things, as far as just like, hey, of course, staying consistent, number one. Number two, when it comes to discipline, it's like discipline is basically doing something that you may hate doing at first, but treating it like you love to do it. And hey, who knows, you may fall in love with it, but worst case, you're at least going to master it to where you may not hate it completely, but you don't necessarily love it. It's more like, okay, I know what I got to do. Now I'm just going to put my mind to it and do it. And it's like, it feeds into overall just eating to simply live versus living to simply eat. And it's like, it blows my mind at times when I'm out in public and I see everybody, people just literally just sprinkling ketchup over everything and they're calling it food, so to speak. That's a good example to look
For
at.
hot Cheetos.
Yeah, and it's okay to, have a cheat day. It's okay for that, but it's like just stay disciplined with your overall diet, because it's like, again, you're just managing to like eat and to live. It's like what you literally are what you eat, because your food literally becomes your cells, it becomes your tissues, it becomes your organs, and it becomes your overall systems within your body. And then if you're putting junk into it, you're literally going to be breaking your body down. But hence, if you put fruits and vegetables more into your body, I mean, you'll be, one, cleansing out your system, and two, strengthening it in a very natural way. Right. And one thing I have noticed about you, Kim, is that you're really, really big on when it comes to like organic eating, just eating as clean as possibly can be. It's like sometimes when I'm having my cheat days and I'm looking at you being all organic, I'm like, damn it, what am I doing right now? I'm like, shit. But overall, the importance, I want you to stress the importance of just organic eating within general for those who are listening to the HFWB Podcast Series, because it's really all about cleansing your system as much as possible and strengthening it as well.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look, there's so many countless studies that show glyphosate, it causes cancer. It causes cancer growth in your cells. It causes all types of diseases and infirmities that don't, like, if you look at countries and groups of people that eat organically, that grow their own vegetables, they grow their own food, grass-fed meats, they're just light years healthier, right, ahead of us in the health department, because American food is so highly processed. I mean, there's just so many chemicals in a Big Mac, or you will not, if you ever see me at a McDonald's, just know that I died and somebody replaced me. Like, that's either an alien or a clone, because you will not catch me.
The Kanye effect. If I go away for a while, you know what happened, right?
Exactly. Like, oh, Kim's eating a Big Mac. Okay, something is going on, because I do not allow that to touch this temple. Like, your body is your temple, and exactly. If you disrespect yourself, and I'm gonna call it disrespect, because if you disrespect yourself by putting a dollar burger inside your body that has been chemically washed in all kinds of, like, the pink goo, it's just disgusting. Just look it up. I could go on and on for days about this, but the research is there. Grow your own food. If you cannot grow your own food, eat organic, and it is going to have the minimal amounts of glyphosate, which we would hope for none, but that's just not the way our world is. Eat clean. If you can make it yourself, just do it. I mean, there's so much, there's so many different benefits, not just physically, like you're going to like yourself in the mirror. Yes, that's probably most people's biggest motivation, right? Is wanting to like what they see when they look in the mirror. That you're not going to like what you see when you're eating fast food and processed food all the time. Over time, that's going to build up. That's going to cause not just health issues, but what I learned in my journey to getting healthy after I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, which I'm completely cured of, and there is no cure for it, but I cured myself with my diet. So I have not had a single episode of it in the last year that I have been animal-based, eating organic. I've not had a single symptom. When I was in and out of the hospital, I was in and out of the emergency room, being told I was going to have to be put on immune suppressants, like all kinds of like pharmaceutical solutions that were just Band-Aids on the bigger problem. So ever since I looked into this, I learned your gut health is directly linked to your neurological health. So all of the depression, all of the anxiety, all of the panic attacks, I'm going to say most, because there are some cases where some people just do have that chemical imbalance and do need medications, and there's nothing wrong with that. That is necessary in some cases.
For sure.
However, in a majority of cases, and I will say majority because there is a science behind this, a majority of cases, people's diet, their poor gut health is directly linked to their poor mental health. There were studies done when people changed their diet from a processed American diet to an organic, clean, grass-fed, no added chemicals, no sodas, no added sugars. When they switched over to this, they completely reversed their depression. They completely reversed their anxiety. All of those symptoms disappeared. And I can speak personally, my mental health has never been better than it has been this past year I have a personal testimony to back this up. So it's
I love it.
studies behind it, and there's just anecdotal, evidence all around the world of people reversing eczema. You know, what's the other one? Alopecia, where your hair falls out.
Right.
There's ulcerative colitis, IBS, all of these autoimmune diseases have been shown to be reversed with a clean diet change. And that is amazing. Like, that should be front page news, if you ask me.
No, I agree with everything you said, and I second that, because it's like the importance of that is just like we have the ability to heal ourselves from within, and it really just starts with just putting the right food and the right nutrients inside of you. That way you can keep your body going from a more natural perspective, to where you can basically add more years to your life versus taking away years from your life, because it goes back in time if you really think about it, Kim. I mean, last time I checked in the Bible, it said that we were literally meant to live to be 120 years old. This was before the big flood and everything, and that just kind of cut down to 100. So it's like, how do you think they lived to be 120 years old? They literally lived like this clean lifestyle, kind of like the blue zone people, so to speak, to where they were really cautious on what they ate. They drank a lot of water, and, they enjoyed themselves. They had themselves a cup of wine from time to time, but they were literally just taking care of themselves, and they were basically aligning their three brains, which is like the brain, and of course their obvious brain in the head, the gut brain that you were talking about, which is very, very important just to your overall health, because that's your intuition. That's as far as like just your calling, just talking to you right then and there. And then, not to mention, linking that all to the heart, it's like all aligned as one, all aligned as one. But I feel like we could do literally another episode just off of that within itself.
We should.
Which might happen in 2024. You never know. You never know with that. But
you know what didn't exist in biblical times that exists now, along with diseases? Seed oils. So the first heart attack on record in the history of our existence, and look this up, the first heart attack occurred after seed oils were introduced into the general population for cooking. So canola oil, vegetable oil, sunflower oil, rapeseed oil, all of these seed oils that were introduced into our population, they're derived from, they were car engine. They were meant to be used in a car engine to lubricate the engine. Then they realized that if you bleach it and refine it to get that nasty, moldy smell out of it, you can package it and sell it for very cheap. And once they started releasing that into the general population and everybody started cooking with that, diabetes, heart attacks, inflammation, arthritis, like all kinds of these diseases, there is correlation, does not always equal causation, but there is a direct correlation with the spike of health issues and seed oil consumption. So that's food for thought. All your listeners, butter is not bad for you.
No, that's some exclusive stuff, and that's what the HFWB Podcast Series is all about. I mean, information is the new money. You never know what you can learn, not only just from myself, but from anybody who comes on the HFWB Podcast Series. And we just learned a very valuable lesson there, that seed oil is basically the reason why everybody is having heart attacks. You could let that sink in for everyone who's listening, that's for sure. And that's definitely something you should definitely do some research on for yourself, just to educate yourself, because that's what it's all about. And within this year, just 2023 going into now, I can't believe I'm saying this, 2024, it's been really just all about like educating, really from my view, just educating yourself on, okay, the ins and outs on so many things and so many different life lessons that are thrown at you. What would be this, and this will be my last question, what would be the one thing that you say that stuck out to you the most in 2023 as of right now that you're going to carry as far as early thoughts into 2024 and beyond?
Gosh, I learned so much this year. This is such a good year. I mean, I say that knowing that it had just so many high highs and low lows, but with that came lessons. So I think the thing that I will carry into the new year and probably forever, hopefully, right, the rest of my life, is just to learn when to let go. I lost two of my matches this year, and I had quite a few. I think we talked, it was like 7 or 8 matches that I had, not including the multiple matches I had for tournaments. But one thing that stood out the most to me was when to let go. So
I like that.
When I am stubborn, like when I have my mindset on something, that's just my pride, right? My pride, and I've said this to multiple people, pride will be your downfall. And so I had to take my own advice. I was in a match, and this was not too long ago. I had completely submitted my will from my life to the Holy Spirit, as I mentioned earlier.
Right.
And with that, I saw victory, right? I had a vision and I saw victory. And so I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to win this match, because that happened on a Sunday. That happened the same day as my one of my super fights. And so I go into the match and I'm like, all right, I got this in the bag. I literally saw it in my head. I saw a victory, right? That wasn't the victory God had in mind for me. It was a spiritual victory. So I ended up losing that match. I had been drilling for about a week prior. I was drilling armbar escapes. I was drilling that exact entry that I ended up doing and going to pass for guard, which I did. But I noticed that my body was moving differently. And it was something that I was confused with in the moment, because I'm like, hold on a minute. This is not what I have been drilling for the last.
This is not what I had in mind here.
This is not what I've been doing. This is not my muscle memory moving. This is something else. But then I remembered, right? You submitted your will. You invited the Lord in to move your body the way he saw fit. And so the way he saw fit was to do something different than I had planned. And, she's attacking my arm. She attacks my left arm. I defended that. She starts attacking my right arm. And I see her going for the arm bar. My pinky is not down. In jiu-jitsu, if you know an arm bar, you have to have pinky down to your chest. That's one of the most crucial details to get that arm bar. Pinky needs to be down. My pinky was not fully to her chest. I had a little bit of a bend in it. My flesh, my pride wanted so badly to fight out of this. My pride, my ego wanted to have my hand raised and to be victorious that day, because I knew I could. And I knew I had been working hard for it. I hear this voice in my head that says, just let it go. And in that moment, people are probably going to think I'm crazy out there. That's okay. I have to share my testimony, right? And this is, this path that I'm on is God given. And I truly, without a doubt, from the bottom of my heart, believe that was God telling me, let it go. And so as soon as I heard that voice in my head tell me, let it go, without even hesitation, I'm tapping. My arm is not even, my arm wasn't even sore. My pride in a competition, I'm willing to have my elbow dislocated. I'm willing to have, an injury. If I know I can fight out of it, I'm going to fight out of it. That's my flesh, right? I want to be the best. So yeah, we're going to get hurt sometimes. Pull my arm back a little bit. That's okay. I'll be back. But that day, God was like, no, ma'am. No, this is your day to submit to me and my plans for you. And if you do that, all these things will come to you. And so when I heard that voice say, let it go, I immediately tapped. She's, running around celebrating her victory. And I'm like, what the heck just happened? Why did I do that? And I'm confused, right? I'm like, what just happened? Well, I submitted, right? And I did it in front of everybody for them to see. Like, you can go back on, I think it's on UFC Fight Pass or Flow Grappling, I forget which one, but you can go back and look and see that loss. She was posting it like over and over again for her highlight video, and I'm just like, okay. And at first it's like, okay, that kind of sucks, I lost. And then I look back and I'm like, that was a victory. Like, she won that night, right? She won that match. I don't know what she was going through. I don't know how bad she needed that, but God determined that that was her night to win. And that was my night for spiritual victory, because I submitted my pride. I laid down my pride, even though my body knew what to do, even though I had the strength to climb around and hitchhike out of that armbar. I listened to what he said and I let it go. And that is one of the biggest lessons to this very moment that I will carry, and I'll remember that moment for the rest of my life, because that was the first time I ever heard the voice of God talk to me. And it just happened to be to tell me to lose, right? To submit. And I'm like, oh, talk about a test of faith. But
no, it's like Michael Jordan said, one of the greatest quotes when it comes to failure and stuff like that. In order to succeed, you must learn how to fail. And I think that's what God was telling you in that exact moment. Your success is going to come. Just take this loss for now, turn it into a lesson, and I promise you, you're going to come out top. And when it's like, when exactly. The time is right, you're going to shine bright, given the right lighting for you. And look at you, the right lighting is literally right around the corner. So it's like, you learned to fail, you did that well, now you're going to succeed.
That's right. Amen. Thank you. He wanted it in his timing. And for so many years, it was me. I got this. I believe in myself. No, it's him. It is. So when you see me in my posters, when you see me in my victory, and I'm doing this, I don't think I'm number one. I am literally giving praise to him.
Oh,
I know there's other athletes out there. I've seen them start to follow suit, and they do this and they do this, and I'm number one. But no, it is not me. It is all him. And that is what I mean. When you see my hands raised, that's all him. So, I lost that night. I've been on a winning streak since then, since my submission. I really, really hope that I get a rematch against her. She's a pretty down opponent. So I'm hoping that another Submission Hunter Pro, maybe in San Antonio in February, who knows? But I know that our paths will cross again sometime, someplace. And when they do, it's going to be a different mindset. It's going to be a totally different outcome. And I cannot wait for that day, because God is with me.
I love this. I enjoyed this conversation that we had during this episode of the HFWB Podcast Series, Kim. And if we learned anything from this episode, to all those who stayed with us this whole episode, you got to learn when to let go. You don't let your pride be your downfall. And to add to that, it's like, don't let your pride make it be your last ride, because you never know what could happen when it comes to that. And it's like, the fact that now look at you here where you currently are, and it's just like, now you're just in bigger and better places, and you still got so much more room to grow, which is just even crazier. And it's an honor to call you a friend now. And it's just like, I'm blown away and inspired by your journey every time I see it, Kim. For those who want to continue to follow your journey and to continue to stay in tune with what you're doing. And of course, for those who are listening, Kim said it earlier, mark your calendar for January 27th, you said, right, Kim?
That's right. On Combat Sports Coverage. I think that's live on Flow Grappling. So, but just follow my socials, and I usually advertise pretty well on those. And my fight poster you literally got an exclusive, because my fight poster hasn't even come out yet. I just submitted my photo today. So,
and who knows? By the time this episode comes out, it may align perfectly. So you never know. I mean, hey, timing is everything.
That's
but
right.
overall, Kim, where can they follow you on social media, just in case for those who want to get more in tune with your overall journey, because it's an incredible one, by the way.
Thank you. So I am Kim Possible on Facebook. That's my real name is Kimberly Avalos, but I go by Kim Possible on Facebook. And on Instagram, it is KimCatBJJ.
Got you. And honestly, that's your alter ego talking, Kim, when you say Kim Possible, because ironically enough, through the power of God, you're basically saying anything is possible. And with that being said, I feel like that should be like a great way we should end this episode. Just remember, anything is possible through the Almighty God. Look at where Kim is, look at where I am, and if we can do it, so can you. Kim, thank you so much for just taking time out of your day for just simply blessing us with another special appearance on the podcast.
Thank you. Matthew 19, with God, all things are possible. Thank you for having me. And I hope to be back to talk more about foods and healthy stuff and getting people started who are interested. Yeah, I'm down for that.
Oh, yeah, that's coming very, very soon. Best believe it. With that being said, until then, this is your host, Clifton Pope. And with that being said, stay healthy, wealthy, blessed. Peace and love, y'all.